Today's business terrain is complex, but managing your business risks doesn't have to be. Cover Buddies is Malaysia's preferred insurance provider. Get that peace of mind knowing that our consultants can help you source and manage your insurance portfolio. For more information, visit our website at www.coverbuddies.com.
And welcome to Cover Buddies, guys. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit about fire insurance because the last 2 weeks, we have received quite a few inquiries regarding fire insurance. And this is regarding fire insurance for residential properties and also for, let's say, business premise and all that, business premises. So I thought I'll just share you some pointers on fire insurance. And I'm not going to cover everything because insurance can be a bit complicated, but just some pointers so that when you are shopping around, at least you know what the things to look out for, okay? So first things first, when you talk about fire insurance, the first thing that obviously you will know that it covers is fire. When you look at fire insurance products out there, they are a little bit more complex because it doesn't just cover on, let's say, in the event of a fire, but some other events regarding the structure, the building, okay, that could happen when you are either renting the place or you are staying there or whatever, okay? First things first, when you get fire insurance, you have to remember that it covers usually on the structure. Number one, please don't underinsure, okay? Because when you underinsure, you're going to have a lot of problems when you claim. That one we talk about in the next video or something because that one itself is just a pain, okay? Don't underinsure. Make sure you insure according to market value so that there's no dispute. So number one, building, you can insure. No problem, right? Another thing is that what if you are, let's say, renting the place for your business, right? You don't own the building, so there is no interest for you to insure. However, sometimes let's say you're running a business, you may have spent a substantial amount on the renovation. And in the event of a fire, right, the policy, which is owned by the owner of, let's say, the property, the landlord, he or she can claim for the building. But your renovation is burned already, So one thing that you can actually consider is basically insuring on the renovation. Okay? So tell your insurer or tell your agent or whatever that, you spend how much and how much would it cost to basically reinstate the place. That means your renovations, your wiring and all that kind of stuff. You can actually insure against that. So this is for people who are renting, specifically, let's say, for commercial. But for residential, you basically obviously need to insure the building. Okay. Now, another thing that you need to be careful about is that fire insurance today, you don't just cover for fire. There are other additional perils, so they call it, right? Additional perils or extensions and so forth. Lots of fancy names, but you can actually include, which you should. Okay. Number one is, of course, when you think about it, flood. You can actually add flood in. Do not presume or assume flood is inside. Okay, it's built in. Some they include it, but not all. Make sure you ask for that. Say, I wanted to cover flood because every year we hear it in Malaysian hotels. Oh yeah, don't worry lah, won't flood one, or it's never happened before in 20 years. Next thing you know, the thing banjir. Another thing that you also want to consider another thing very common, is when you get fire insurance, I would suggest that you cover for burst pipes and basically the overflowing of water tank. Because that one, through personal experience, has happened to us twice in our property, okay? Not the same property lah, of course. Or if it's the same property, then I think we should change plumber lah. But it's happened before. First time, the pipe burst and basically destroyed the wall and so forth. We had to get someone to fix it. Second time was basically the overflowing of the water tank, which is above. And it basically destroyed the plaster ceiling and the paintwork on the side and all that. But you also have to remember, okay, this is very important. Most of the insurance out there that covers for overflowing of water tank and burst pipe, they usually cover the resultant damage. That means the damage caused by the overflowing and all that. But they don't actually cover repairing the source of the damage, okay? That means it was the water tank. They don't cover for the water tank. Nor do they cover to repair that burst pipe and so forth. But now a lot of insurers, they do actually have that. It's an additional basically benefit. So look out for that. This is very important. Look out for that because standard as of today, basically, let's say now it's October 2024. Standard, basically, they fixed only the resultant damage. Okay, not all. Another thing that you want to be careful about, very common, is storm, tempest. It means damage by storm. Basically, hujan lebat lah. So this is quite common, especially in Malaysia. Lor. The roof fly off, possible, right? So there's another thing that you want to cover, because technically, if something happens to your house because of, let's say, a storm, hujan lebat lah, basically there's no fire ma. So your fire insurance may not cover that. So you want to make sure you add that in. That is basically an additional peril. Speaking of that, hujan lebat, what else can happen? Trees can fall. So that's impact damage or falling trees, basically. So that one you have to add that in. That one is not automatic, okay? You must add that in. Then impact damage is also something that's common. I mean, damage by impact. If you are, let's say, okay, this is more applicable to both commercial and residential. In the event, let's say another car, I do not know, maybe the guy marble or he's playing his phone or he's playing Facebook, whatever, he crashed straight into your gate. It's not a fire. But if you add that in as an impact, it covers your property. Okay, so important. And let's say for this one very common, workshops. They, for some reason, customers' car, they crash into the workshop and machinery and so forth. Okay, let's say the workshop structure. Okay, you can actually add that into your fire insurance. If you don't add that in, again, there's no fire, it's not insured technically. Okay, so another thing that's really important for fire insurance is that when you are buying fire insurance, you always want to consider also covering the content, because you have to remember your fire insurance right now is just covering either on the structure or the renovation. What about the things inside your house or basically your office or your place of work, so forth? That means your laptops, your furniture. Those of you guys who are doing business, right? You may have stock. In the event there's a fire, they will not cover that content. You need to actually get also the content insurance. Now, when you talk about content, number one is that in the event of a fire, fine, okay, you have to cover it accordingly. But what about, let's say, burglary, which happens? So you have to remember burglary, right? It's quite common. And then this is the part where you have to ask yourself, how do you want to insure it? How much you want to insure? Because burglary is very interesting. There are two ways to insure burglary. One way is that you can insure on first loss basis. Number two is that you can actually insure for full limit. What does that mean? So let's say, example, your belongings, the content in your house, okay, it's, let's say, 100,000 ringgit. First loss, that means you do not insure all 100,000. You insure a portion on a first loss. That means you are betting actually that if someone comes in, they're not going to grab everything, because not likely that they come with a lorry, they clean up your house. Not likely, but let's never say never now, okay? But not likely. So maybe, let's say, 100,000 ringgit worth of products or of things or content, right? You may insure maybe 50,000 or 25,000 ringgit. That means, right, you are only covering up to 25,000 ringgit. Anything more, the insurer won't tanggung really. So then quite clear, okay? But if you are in, let's say, doing business and you have stock, your content or whatever, and it really depends on your products, okay? I mean, if your things are big, not so easy to carry out, then maybe you can do first loss. But if it's something small, okay, and they're very expensive, let's say iPhones, let's say you're dealing with iPhones, right? They're very small. 100,000 is nothing. 100,000 ringgit worth of iPhones, I can literally clear all your stock. Then maybe you don't take first loss. Then maybe you take full value. Okay, so these are important things when depending on, let's say, residential or also your commercial areas. Another thing I also want to highlight, right, is that when you talk about content, fine, furniture, all that, we understand. What about your other content? Like, let's say, your aircon and all that. Those are actually considered fixtures. Fixtures are actually already covered in your fire insurance. That means it's stuck to the wall, it's a fixture, fine. But content, movable things, okay? Wow, one important pointer. If you have jewelry in the house, okay, my advice is please do not carry too much jewelry in the house, to be honest, because in the event of, let's say, there's an incident, it is very, very difficult. Although insurance would cover under, for example, personal effects, okay, small value personal effects, it is usually covered to up to maybe about 30% of the value. The insurers usually will not cover the full value, okay? Something that's very, very important to take note. If you have really valuable jewelry inside, fine art, artifacts, and so forth, family, heirloom, I don't know, please consider storing it somewhere else. But if you really, really want to keep that 1 million or 2 million ringgit sort of fine art there in a house, right? There is a different type of insurance for that, right? That's basically called a fine art insurance. That is different type of coverage. And, to apply for that, you have to take a picture of it and basically declare it and give the measurements, give description of the fine art and how it looks like, and then you insure it according to the agreed value. That means you are saying that, okay, it's 1 million, fine. Then we insure it for 1 million, you pay the premium for 1 million. Because when it comes to art and all the artifacts, the price can be very, very, it can be very, very subjective. Let's just put it that way. So for this normal home insurance or basically business premise insurance, and if you have this sort of really valuable art and artifacts, you will need to use different type of insurance. So we have covered so far fire insurance on the building. We have covered fire insurance on, let's say, renovation. We have also talked about fire insurance for your content, defending vehicles and so forth. We have also talked about burglary, where you have to remember, burglary is burglary, fire is fire. So you have to remember those, and the two types of coverages, that options basically that you can take for burglary. That means on first loss or full value, you will know better what you need to cover for. So these are the basic pointers I can provide you with when it comes to fire insurance, okay, whether it is for residential or commercial. However, there are a lot more, but I don't want to get too technical, especially once you go into, let's say, commercial areas, where place of premise where you're doing business, and a lot of them, they have their SMB packs. That means small, medium business packs, right? Where they cover for fire, and then you have more things like your content, your stock, public liability, directors and officers, and then they also have like your workman compensation, all packaged in. So that is different. I would do that in the next video because it gets more confusing, but also more options where you can play around with, which is actually a lot more relevant for businesses out there. So, okay, if you enjoyed watching today's video, consider subscribing, give us a thumbs up, and also hit that bell, and I will see you in the next video.
If you enjoyed our show today, be sure to subscribe and follow us on social media, or sign up for our newsletter through our website at www.coverbuddies.com so you'll get all the good stuff sent directly to you.